Namaskar. This is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to tit-bits on business and finance with me. Let us consider the hard truth and the undisputed fact about the appointment of any independent authority, investigator, regulator, supervisor, or inspector in any field of public life and governance. As is generally seen, the person appointing such an authority always prefers to appoint the person who is willing to compromise his independence and integrity for him, often for mutual gain. Whenever such appointments are made, a relationship of convenience and subservience of such an appointee, and not merit alone, is a prime and perhaps the most important consideration why such appointments take place. An authority who can be an accomplice if need be is therefore preferred to one who will not be an accomplice whenever such appointments are made. That's the case with the appointment of the Speaker of the Parliament or the Speaker of a Legislative Assembly or of the CAG or of the RBI Governor, the election commissioners, the CVC, and the head of any independent and autonomous body in India. These are all supposed to be independent statutory authorities, not subordinate or junior to the one who's appointing them. But the fact is that they are expected to compromise their independence if need be to favor that person, to favor that authority who's appointing them. And experience says that they generally do so. If that's the general situation, then why will the factors and consideration for the appointment of auditors, who are also a statutory corporate authority and who are supposed to independently oversee and report on the conduct and integrity of the management and financial position of the biggest of corporates, why will this position be any different? In other words, it is accomplice kind of persons who are going to be favored for these kind of appointments. After all, in reality, it is the promoter of a company who appoints his auditor and pays his fees, and thus expects that the auditor will look after and protect his interests first, even if it means that being an accomplice in corporate, accounting, banking, and financial crimes is what it is resulting in. And that's because without the cover of a clean audit report, no accounting or financial misconduct can really continue for very long. The fraudulent promoters of companies, therefore, in particular, prefer to have a weak and compliant auditor willing to compromise his integrity and independence and become a crucial accomplice in corporate crimes by giving a clean and bogus audit report that conceals corporate and financial delinquencies and also makes them happen. This common situation of what we would term as accomplice auditors who willingly compromised their integrity and participated and facilitated corporate crimes has been evident in almost every corporate fraud or misconduct, whether it be the case of ILFS, DHFL, PMC Bank, Yes Bank, Reliance Capital, RCom, Bhushan Steel, and so many others. That's also the story of every willful defaulter in India, which at present happens to be an ever growing list. The latest in this list of dubious promoters and dubious auditors seems to be the case of the near collapsed business empire of Sanjeev Gupta of Liberty Steel of UK, which is part of the GFG Alliance London Group. The financier of this group, Greensill Capital, has already collapsed, and so may be the case of Sanjeev Gupta's GFG Alliance Group. As the story unfolds, it is turning out to be the case of yet another suspect promoter with suspect financial statements and most likely also a suspect auditor. A recent article in the Financial Times London exposes the direct complicity of the auditor of the GFG Alliance group of companies and its emerging involvement in the entire unfolding scammy saga founded on the basis of false financial statements, of course, signed by the auditor. About the auditor, the Financial Times article states that the GFG Alliance companies have a little known auditor called King and King, whose declared professional motto is "A client interest always comes first," which implies that they will favor the client interests even if it means crossing forbidden lines not permitted legally. The second, it states that the manpower, resources, and infrastructure of King and King are grossly insufficient to conduct the audit of a group with a combined diversified turnover of about rupees 25,000 crores. It then says that the office systems of the GFD auditor do not match the requirements for the conduct of audit of such a disparate and diverse business group. They find it to be very insufficient. Further, the FT article states that the auditor has not prepared or insisted on a consolidated financial statement of the group, and that is needed in order to know its true financial and business position. The auditor has not bothered to do that. Many have questioned the quality of audit and certification by King and King, as is remarked by Financial Times, but then they remain the auditor. Further, the article mentions that with a large part of its earnings coming from the GFG group, the auditor, which is King and King, has violated the professional ethical norms which provide that an auditor's earnings from a single client cannot exceed 15% of its total earnings. When they do, the independence of the auditor is clearly compromised, and this is what is there in this case. The Financial Times then further observes that the accounts of 19 companies of the GFG group are overdue. They have not been prepared. And out of these, 17 are companies which are audited by King and King. It seems to be negligent. It doesn't seem to be bothered. Most of these companies have changed their accounting period twice since 2019, which is a very common practice adopted by companies that manipulate their books of account, and King has not objected or probed such change in accounting terminologies, in accounting periods, in accounting methods, in accounting ways of dealing by these companies of the GFG Alliance Group. It is worth mentioning, as the article says, that King and King is also the auditor of the shady NMC Medical Center of Dubai of the fugitive B.R. Shetty, who is also mired in a multi-billion-dollar scam. Even those balance sheets of NM Medical were certified by King and King. That's the case of yet another auditor who we call looks to be an accomplice auditor willing to participate in corporate accounting, financial and banking crimes. The larger picture that clearly emerges is that a negligent authority, including auditors, with an integrity deficit and willing to compromise his independence, suits all those who appoint these kind of statutory authorities. Therefore, a compromising auditor is preferred to an uncompromising one, because only then can accounting manipulations and frauds take place. That's been the case with all fraud corporates that we talk about, and it is also the case of government-owned PSUs and public sector banks, which need the services of these auditors in order to stealthily conceal the truth about their rotten state of affairs. The next issue that emerges is that even lenders and other stakeholders become passive accomplices when they notice and accept questionable financial statements of these auditors and do not object to them or do not get the auditors removed. And that's what's happened in the case of Greensill, the collapsed lender to the GFG group. In a general environment, the overall system prefers weak statutory authorities who are ever willing to toe the line, and auditors have not been an exception to this rule. They too have been willing to toe the line. Few corporates are willing to engage the services of auditors who are unwilling to compromise their integrity and independence. That's the reality which has suited all since decades and is superficially discussed belatedly only when a scam surfaces. That's the case with a statutory authority, and that's the case with the appointment of an auditor also, who also happens to be a statutory authority. And it is because these kind of appointments are preferred that we see scams, we see frauds, and we see the kind of shocking corporate demeanor which has been taking place. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. and thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here, you can be our supporter by paying Rs 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr. Sujit Nair and from Mr. Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying Rs 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our Super Supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr. Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr. Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.